The CoinWeek podcast is brought to you by PCGS, the standard and the rare coin grading business. It bears repeating, but PCGS has reopened its operations, their Orange County, California office, where expert graders are working in a safe environment to evaluate, authenticate, and grade your rare coins and other numismatic items. To see how PCGS is protecting themselves and your collectibles in this unprecedented time, go to www.pcgs.com to learn more. The CoinWeek podcast is always a good time for me to talk coins with some of my favorite people in the rare coin industry. We always try to capture and present a version of the kinds of conversations that we would have off the record and on the bourse floor, either on or after hours at coin shows. So it is in some way therapeutic to get to spend the afternoon picking the brain and shooting the breeze with some of the most talented and connected dealers and experts in the field. Today, we have one of my favorite people to work with, Russ Augustin of AU Capital Management and Rare Co-op. Russ was a wonderkind in the numismatic industry when he burst into the scene as a master of coin pricing and analysis, and was one of the leading buyers of the rare coin market when he worked with Blanchard. Having sold millions and millions of dollars of coins over the years, he has gained an understanding not only of coins, collectors, and what drives the market, but what is important to understand when buying rare coins. Throughout it all, he has remained a good guy, a straight shooter. I pick his brain for what he sees in the market and ask him how he's been spending his time now that the traditional avenues of dealer-to-dealer trading have given way to internet and phone buying. You'll enjoy what you hear next on the CoinWeek podcast. Hi, Russ. Thank you for joining me in the CoinWeek podcast.
Hi, Charles. How are you?
Oh, it's good. For those who do not know you that well, though, even though, I think we've featured you many times in CoinWeek articles and videos, but you really cut your teeth in the industry being at the cutting edge of analyzing rare coin price movement. And I can't think of a better person to have on at this moment in time when there are so many questions about what's actually happening in the rare coin market. So thank you so much for taking a chunk of time out of your busy day, busy working day, and I'm sure you're working pretty hard, to discuss your thoughts on where we're at right now and where we're heading as an industry.
Yeah, we are. We're actually considering ourselves to be an essential business with all the bullion demand lately.
So where is the coin market right now? My gut tells me, despite what one might expect, that there's actually a lot more happening in the market than we've seen in the past few months. Obviously we have this shift in the way we do business, but I see very strong prices, which indicates to me that there is very strong demand at the present time.
Well, your gut might be right, and I think it's come to as a surprise to a lot of us. In the middle of March, when the Baltimore show was canceled and the Stacks auction moved to their offices in the West Coast, I believe that there was a collective holding of the breath to figure out what was going to happen in that sale. And much to everyone's surprise, I thought the prices were pretty strong and stable. It seemed to me that coins above 100,000 were probably pretty good buys. Some even considered cheap. Anything under 100,000 and stopping at 10,000 were right on. And it really kind of shocked me. We ended up buying nothing.
I had a conversation with a leading collector, and I won't drop his name, but clearly he's one of the whales. And, he told me that his financial picture hasn't been affected one bit due to this, and that he's still an active and aggressive buyer in the market. So, on the one hand, it must be nice to have that level of wealth and confidence. It's a sentiment that's little jarring to me to hear at this present time. But nevertheless, there are collectors who are seizing on this opportunity to get a competitive advantage in hopes of buying important material at discount pricing. And I don't know if they're succeeding at that because I still see strong prices. And given that there is a certain predilection for this type of collector to view smart buying in rare coins and other collectibles as an alternative to stocks, seeing coin prices at the upper end remain strong in the face of the financial market taking a beating must make these guys feel smart. I'm not sure this is a sentiment that conveys as well to the rest of us, whose ability to participate at whatever level of the market we play in requires us to have stable jobs and a sense of financial security.
I agree. Yes, I can see that. It was interesting to note that when the stock market started going down last month, the price of gold also went down, and that was kind of challenging for many people to understand why. And we believe that those who are overextended had to sell assets in order to cover losses in the paper assets. But sure enough, now that we look back maybe 30 days later, the price of gold had firmed up and is now surpassed where it was in recent highs. And it looks like it's going to continue to increase in price. This is the underlying spot gold price. It's going to increase in price over the next several months.
Russ, how would a bull market today for metals differ from the pre-86 bull market? Then we didn't have the U.S. and other sovereign mints producing millions of gold bullion coins for the market as we do today. And it's apparent that modern bullion coins have had an impact in the sale of generic pre-1933 gold, what we might call numismatic coins. But having said that, I think it's been a well-established phenomena that so goes the bullion market, goes to the rare coin market. Is this likely to continue to be the case?
I think that in a market like this, both the modern products as well as the traditional pre-33 gold numismatic products or vintage coins have the same kind of demand and the same kind of draw. But there's a different kind of buyer. The buyer who is taking on both of these gold assets really is just tweaking his diversity in a gold holding rather than wondering what denomination is best. We've noticed that there have been several very large days of $1 million or more here at my affiliate company, Rarecoa, where the gold that is bought and sold, it really doesn't matter as long as it's kind of in easily identified denominations. Now, denominations being a $10 Liberty or a $10 Indian or $20 Liberty or a $20 St. Gaudens or a Canadian Maple Leaf, Krugerrand, or American Eagle.
I see a wide disparity in the bid and ask for junk silver, for instance, with pricing being all over the place. Are we seeing a situation where buyers lack an efficient platform to readily trade pre-33 gold and pre-64 silver coins? Or is this volatile bid-ask situation a factor of the supply chain being challenged due to restrictions imposed upon us by our government's response?
Well, I definitely think there's a demand for 90% silver. At first, there was a distinction between the denominations of dimes, quarters, and half dollars. But within weeks, that distinction just disappeared. People were trying to buy whatever they could. Now, the disparity between what you could buy a $1,000 face bag for from the beginning of March to the beginning of April was incredible. I mean, at some point, I was seeing as much as $2,000 or $3,000 difference in the prices that were being advertised on the internet platforms. I know here in the office that there were several bags that were sold for $16,000 when we were buying them for $12,500. And, we weren't buying them for $12,500 and selling them for $16,000. It's just that somebody wanted this bag. We sold it for $16,000, And the next day we were able to buy several at 12.5. That just goes to show that the price reporting mechanisms for spot gold and silver are kind of unreliable right now. We kind of believe that, Kitco, which a lot of people use, is more of a 4x price, which I'm led to believe is where a price at which you cannot take delivery, but that the COMEX price, where you get the futures involved, is the price at which you can take delivery. And COMEX seems to be higher than the Kitco price, and I think that that's the real distinction here. The real bullion price that we feel is active right now is with the COMEX.
I wanted to convey to people the level of craft that comes into how professional evaluates markets, and specifically your method, which propelled you to the top of the industry when you were very young. And this is when you were a key buyer with Blanchard early in your career. How do you look at coin transactions and auction and sales data different than someone, on the outside might see the market?
Well, one thing I can say, and it's a good question because I'm not sure that everybody really has the same technique, but one thing that I always do is I look at all of the available numbers. I just don't take one number as the gospel truth. After all, we're dealing with a vintage item. I mean, it's an antique. It's a relic. It's a piece of art. So the inherent value is based upon what someone will pay for it. But if you can look at, do a comparative analysis, which I do all the time, and I'm pretty well noted for, you do a comparative analysis of similar or substantially similar products, you're going to come up with an intuitive feeling as to what the value of the item that you're examining is at the time that you're offered it.
I think this is a critical skill because, on the one hand, these markets are very thin and illiquid. But on the other, you could have three coins that might superficially seem similar, but each of these coins could have radically different values to prospective buyers.
That's true. I have a great example. I mean, just last week, there's been a lot of demand for dated St. Gaudens coins, especially in 64 grade and better. Some of these coins are really expensive in MS65, and the two dates that I'll illustrate are the 1909 Philadelphia and the 1920 Philadelphia. The 1920 has a CAC population in, say, 64 plus that is double that of the 1909. Yet the price of the two coins stay the same, or are pretty much relatively the same. Why shouldn't that 1909, which is half as available as the 1920, be worth twice as much? So it's that kind of logic that we use in order to come up with ideas and gambles, if you will, risk-taking, educated risk-taking. It's that kind of logic that we use to make our decisions. But that emphasizes the comparative analysis.
Do you feel that in the current market where coins essentially have to trade sight unseen, that it's more difficult to do proper market analysis?
Yes, I do. And I also think that, had the internet not been established as much as it had been before this new normal that we're living through right now, we'd be in deep trouble. But I think that the internet platforms are only going to become more and more useful to buyers and sellers. We've got plenty of information at our hands to make educated decisions. I don't see that slowing down. And maybe, coin shows are a thing of the past. As long as you have a return privilege, if you're not happy with the coin, you're doing your due diligence, do some educated research, comparative analysis if you can, you should be able to make a good price and make a good purchase.
Is there any change in the volume of material that's coming into the market? I mean, we generally think of the advanced collections being put together by older collectors, and a lot of them in estate planning, you're trying to, alleviate the pressure and stress of the people you leave behind. So I do wonder whether events like this speed up the time frame for some people, where they realize, hell, I might not be going to that next coin convention or auction. Maybe I should think about wrapping this up and liquidating my holdings so that that next custodian of these treasures can enjoy them for the time being.
I think it's too premature, but I hate to say that the death count continues to rise. There's going to be a lot of estate sales. And if one or two of those happens to be large collections of coins that could influence a market, such as several of the collections we've seen over the past decade, Gene Gardner, Brent Pogue, those kinds of collections, it'd be very interesting to see what happens. We certainly have weathered the sale of those collections happening pretty much all at one time. There was a lot of money that had to be spent on a lot of coins within a 7-year period, and it all got absorbed, and perhaps that's why many of the midstream coins depreciated in value. I think that many of the coins that we would normally think are scarce, not necessarily rare, have actually come down 30 to 40%, and they're trading for around where they were 15 years ago. Had these big collections not come up on the market and absorbed a lot of that liquidity, these coins may not have dropped in value. With the current pandemic, if it's not handled or harnessed in on a time-efficient basis, this could affect the market for coins, but I think once again, they will be absorbed. There might be a downturn in prices for the more common or scarce coins, but then we will come right back again. Now, that all being said, the top tier items, they always have a buyer.
Nobody ever gets upset that there are too many nice coins coming to the market and turn their nose up on them. Many of the nicest coins that we have long pedigrees and form our understanding of the issue and the series and tell us what's possible to collect. No one ever says, oh, one or two of the finest 1793 and Merodot cents is coming to the market. Whoop-de-doo. No, when material like this comes to the market, it doesn't matter when it happens. And these are opportunities, and they're nearly as rare as the coins themselves. And a serious collector may only have one or two shots at buying a specific coin in the course of their entire lifetime. And so with the Gardner sale, the Newman sale, the Pogue sale, these recent mega sales, and there have been many other great named numismatic collections that come to the market in recent years. For many buyers, these were touchstone events and foundational events for the building of their collections.
Well, that's a good observation. I worry that that's balanced with the interest in coins that you could collect on cherry pick when you were running a paper route, which doesn't happen anymore. Whereas the people who might be buying American Eagles nowadays like it because it's a set that they only have to worry about once a year and get that one example that has the current year on it. So it hopefully people will look at a Barber dime set and say, the prices are pretty darn cheap. I can buy an uncirculated set with the exception of a few of the key dates for a relatively little amount of money. What's interesting is that just today I was researching an 1877 half-union copper pattern. Can you imagine the guy who stepped up and paid $28,000 for it in 1982, and then contrast that to 2009 to the same guy who paid $575,000 for the same coin? Can you imagine what the mentality is?
I've had this conversation with Scott Travers before. I'm a big advocate for more coins being affordable and a decrease of what I see as an artificial price level that props up certain series of coins that aren't as popular as they once were. And I consider the classic commemorative coin series to be one of those areas. And I feel that coin pricing should typically obey a demand-supply model where demand dictates pricing levels so that coins appreciate when demand is up and depreciate in value when demand is down. And that way, coins can always find buyers at proper levels, and we have an industry where material turns over and more people can participate.
Yeah, that's good. You earlier mentioned the silver commemorative set. Let's just take the 50-piece set, and I'll dissect what you just asked, like starting with that. I always thought that it would be a great way to start a collection like that is to start with those key dates because they seem to be so inexpensive. The Alabama, the Hawaiian, the Sesquicentennial, the Panama Pacific, the Missouri 2x4, the Grant Star. There's 7 keys in that series that once you buy those, the set is actually really easy to complete. Fast forwarding to Indian piece metals, well, the underlying theme on both the silver commemoratives and the Indian piece metals is our United States history. Indian piece metals is an area that I found that's completely undervalued in terms of the bronze restrikes that occurred right around 1860. So I started getting interested in those some time back because each one of them has a very interesting tale surrounding the year that they were struck and that it was presented on the metal. And it's something that it's more than you're going to get out of a history book. So I think if people are kind of go right to history, which is always a popular theme, and they stick with certain parts of history that they like, getting a coin that represents that part of history should be a pretty easy thing to do. And doing it in an inexpensive way is even better, and especially if all of a sudden you find out that it goes up in value. California fractional gold pieces are also a very misunderstood market. It's very complex. There's 575 different coins. And even right there, most of them are only worth in the hundreds and not the thousands. And there's a whole lot of story that goes along with those, especially the ones that were used as currency, we believe, during the California gold rush.
So when you look at the market for these coins, and I think all of these can be opportunities, do you find that what personally interests you has upside long term because finding these things is now embedded in your DNA? Or do you feel a collector collects coins for the right, or do you feel that if a collector collects coins for the right reason, pursuing quality, nice eye appeal pieces with significant stories and genuine scarcity, that this is the key to unlocking upside in the future?
I like your question. I'm not going to say that because I tend to turn to something, it tends to go up in value. And I certainly don't expect what I buy to go up in value. What I do find is that if I like something enough and that I spend a reasonable amount of time understanding it, it kind of all gels into an intuitive nature when it comes to being offered or having the opportunity to buy an item that comes your way. The funny thing that I tell a lot of the dealers and clients that I work with, and without any hesitation or embarrassment, is that the coin finds you, you don't find the coin. But when that coin finds you, if you're comfortable enough to make a purchase because of your intuitive nature, well, it doesn't get any better than that.
A lot of people don't know what to think. We have our gut reaction, and the key to that is reaction. I think we're being reactionary, doing what we're told, hoping that the geniuses that we put in charge know what they're doing, that modern science is as great as we think it is, and that all of this can get resolved as soon as possible, and we can go back to doing what we were doing with a renewed appreciation, maybe, of just how lucky we are to have these things in our lives. I know I can't wait to get out there. On a personal level, I'm tired of being cooped up. But what's your feeling? When do you think we're going to be back at it? Slinging coins in person and getting back to our pre-COVID coin lives. For me, I think it's probably going to take till 2021, maybe January fun.
Well, the reason I'm optimistic about in the next 30 to 60 days is because of the underlying movement in the precious metals markets. In every market cycle that we've had in the past where precious metals have been surging up, you have this dovetailing in the numismatic markets, and even more so now with the internet being the information resource that it is. As far as the participation, the human to human participation in coin shows, I think that it's going to ramp down a lot slower than it ramped up. I think it took, when was it, November to the middle of March for this to really ramp up to some sort of proportional basis where we all became alarmed. And now here it's Easter, and we are now hearing that the state of California requires face masks when you walk into a grocery store. I think that it's going to, once we pass the hump, the statistical hump of this pandemic, that more and more people are going to want to see that it's safe to go back out and to meet new faces and shake new hands or bump new elbows. So 2021 fun. I'm a little skeptical, Charles, but I wouldn't doubt it, but I could certainly see a 2021 Central States.
Well, bottom line is you do see yourself traveling again in the next calendar year.
I do, and I hope to be able to start getting back frequent flyer points, because I think everybody's lacking right now.
No, hopefully there'll be airlines by then.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be in airlines, but there might be fewer of them. Okay,
Russ, you have any cool coin stories, anything that's crossed your desk in the past few weeks that you can share with me?
Well, yes, I have actually, and I'm not sure I should let this out of the bag, but it is, if you dug deep enough on the internet, you could find it. I'm rapidly becoming somewhat of a shipwreck nerd when it comes to gold coins off of U.S. shipwrecks. And of course we have, the Brother Jonathan, we have the SS Central America, we have the SS New York, we have the SS Republic. These are all coins that you can buy on the market that are certified, either by PCGS or NGC. What is little known is that as time goes on and the techniques for exploring underwater are improved, sometimes by leaps and bounds, there are a few more shipwrecks being uncovered with United States gold coins on. And 2 shipwrecks, actually steamboats, in other words, not SS but SB, have recently been recovered, and coins, a few of them have been certified by NGC. That is the SB Pulaski and the SB North Carolina. So I'm super excited about this. These are actually classic head gold coins that have come up in very little quantity. But it just goes to show, and they're mint state. It just goes to show that what is now coming our way is this whole new era of coins that you never thought you'd find before that have a fantastic story to them, that are available in very little quantity, but are immensely desirable. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to, seeing in the emerging market in the next few years. I think that we're going to maybe find a few more of these things, not to the extent of the SS Central America, but certainly to, something perhaps on the order of the magnitude which was small of the SS New York.
I always like seeing the shipwreck coins, to be honest. I think these are time capsules, and these wrecks, they're significant for appreciation in history. And I think actually collecting coins and artifacts from wrecks is, in some respects, an honoring of those who lost their lives at sea in these tragic events. And I think, I'd rather see governments sort out a way to allow this to happen in a safe and archaeological way than to just, let this material rot at sea. And because if it wasn't for capitalized private groups trying to salvage this stuff, we wouldn't have ingots and the SS Central America gold coins and countless other artifacts that are just really fascinating.
That's true. And one of the things that I often think about, which I think is just so cool, is that it was almost sport for countries to war against each other, or even villages to war against each other. Now, established armies would actually have a traveling mint to pay the soldiers. And I'm pretty sure that this is true, that before an army went into battle, that they would bury their mint so that, it wouldn't be stolen by anyone. And only a few people would know where it is. But if that army got decimated, who's to say that the champs, the defeating army, knew where that mint was? So here all of a sudden, I think that this is responsible, and for the most part, on these wonderful, cool, ancient coins that we have available to us today, are being found by enterprising farmers and collectors and hobbyists with metal detectors in clay pots that were buried before a battle. That's just a theory. I like to wax on it for a little while, but you can't say that doesn't sound like there's some truth to it.
Well, Russ, thanks for taking the time to join us today. You stay safe, keep buying those coins, and I hope to see you soon.
You too.
Thanks. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. Remember, you can download every episode of the CoinWeek podcast for free on the iTunes Store, or stream it online on our YouTube channel or on CoinWeek.com. I'm editor Charles Morgan. Until next time, happy collecting.